Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second part for this week's lecture. Um, Again, we're going to. I'll re-explain everything in case you clicked on this video first, or skip the Unity video because you're working in Unreal Engine and don't want to know about Unity. Um, this is one part of our lecture series for this week, which is going to be a little different. What I'm going to be doing is today I'm posting how to build your project, which is the second part for our lecture here. And then tomorrow I'm going to be posting a bunch of like little mini videos, tutorials to kind of go over some cool tips and tricks for enhancing your level design in editor through these different tools, different methods, um, in both Unity and Unreal. Um, these are not required for your project, which is due this week, but may be helpful for you in the final project to enhance your final project. And also, I think that everybody should know how to build out their projects in whichever engine they're using, because that's the end result of what you want to do. Is you want to be able to build this out, share it with people, and show them your work. Um, Again, I this is not necessary for the project that is due this week. In fact, we're going to be I've asked for everyone to submit these projects as their actual editor files so that I can go into the projects and take a look at them within the editors and not necessarily as a package thing. But if you find yourself wanting to package this up, put it in your portfolio, share it with friends or whatever, this will explain how to do that. So I already did this in Unity, and now we're going to do it in Unreal, and I'm going to kind of show you the differences in the way that these. You'll be able to see the differences in the way that these engines package their games. So I've opened up. This is a game that we at Dogwood did recently at a game jam. I'm going to have to set this. Maybe there we go. Now we have less choppy frame rates. This is called Fishing for Godot. This was a fun little fishing game that we did um, for a game jam, and it's good to show off for building a project because it is a single level. All of the assets are built up into this one level here, and it will be pretty easy for us to build. So we're building in Unreal Engine. There's a couple of things that we want to make sure that we have before we start building. So the first thing is inside of the levels, all of the levels that we are making or that we are putting into our project and building, we want to make sure we have player starts. Or if we don't have physical player starts in the level, through blueprinting, I don't think this one does, but through blueprinting, we have access to a reference to where the players are supposed to start. That's important because otherwise the game will not function because it won't know where to put the player when they enter the level. And sometimes that actually errors out while you're building, so you want to make sure that those references are correct. So we want to make sure we have a player start in our levels. The next thing we want to do is go over to the world settings tab here, and we want to make sure that we have our game mode and everything set up. This, I believe we were just using the first person game mode, but we want to make sure that we have a game mode set up for by default, and also for each of our levels if anything changes. And that will include in the game mode all of these different classes, our pawn, our HUD, our player controller, game state, all that stuff. We want to make sure that that is all selected. If any of that doesn't exist, the game will not run properly because it won't have any reference to these classes when it's running its code. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our edit menu and we're going to go to project settings. So here, and actually this is another way to check your game mode. So here there's a couple of things we want to do. So under maps and modes here, this will set our default game mode. And then this default game mode will propagate to all of the other maps that we are building in our game, unless we change it. So like I was saying before, we had set up to BP first person game mode. So that is set up, and all of the different classes for the game mode are set here. If we were running a game online, which we are not, fortunately, we also want to make sure that we set things like our server game mode and default map settings for that. So next up, which again we're not doing online, so we don't have to worry about that. Next, we want to go to our default maps, and we just want to make sure that whichever map the game starts on, whichever one is the first thing players see. So a lot of times in games that I work on, my first map is the main menu. I make my own level for main menus and then do a lot of the main menu stuff inside that level, and then travel out to the actual gameplay. We want to make sure that that is set under game default map. So this one only has this one level, which is lake. So I just want to make sure it's set to lake. Under the advanced tab here this is where you would do more multiplayer stuff. Again, I'm not dealing with multiplayer in this, so we don't have to worry about that. The last thing we want to check to make sure we have is an instance class. So we just want to make sure that there is a game instance set here, which if you're programming a game, you'll be using the game instance a lot. So you'll need that set to be actually be able to run any of your code. So again, just a quick breakdown. We want to make sure we have a default game mode. We want to make sure we have a game default map and a game instance class. Next up, we're going to go to packaging. So under packaging, there are a lot of options here. And we're going to ignore most of this because by default, it'll work totally fine. There's a couple of things that we want to make sure we do include, though. So under the advanced tab here, which I just closed, I'm going to reopen it to show you. We want to go down to the maps to include specific. I'm never really good at finding these tiny little am I really, it's really hard for me to see things. Am I blind here? I feel silly because it's the only one that's actually dropped down. So a list of maps to include in a package build, and we want to make sure that we've added all of our maps to this. So in order to do this, this is an array. So in Unreal, if you want to add elements to your array, which is a list of different elements, depending, it can be any manner of things. For this, it's a list of different levels. You want to add an element by hitting this plus icon here, and then you would add the path within your game, your project folder to that level. You can hit these three dots to find it yourself. So for me, in this level or in this game, I would go under. Do I have it under levels or maps? I actually don't even know, but you would find it under your there it is. Find it under wherever your path is. So right here is my map file. It's called a UMap file, and then you would open that, and it would add that path to your list. If you want to remove something, then you can just click this arrow and then delete it, because we don't need two of the same map in our game. And that's it for the advanced stuff, which I will minimize again to clean this up a little bit. And the last thing we want to do is we want to go to our project stuff here and make sure that we are building the correct target. So in Unity, this was all done in a menu for the build profiles. In Unreal, it's a little bit separated. So under this project, we want to make sure that we are building the correct build configuration. So here we have options for debug, development, test, shipping. These are different configurations that when you're actually building out games will be important. So development, like I said in the Unity one, it's something that you would give to other playtesters or QA people to test the game out. It will give you access to web services and things like that if you need that. Debug is that, but stripped down. So it'll give you a lot more of your debug tools. So if you look at the game here, you'll see all of these icons and things that are floating around in the map that shouldn't be here. These are all debug. Oh no, I moved my player start, and these are all debug tools, and they're not necessarily something you'll see in the game. But the debug game version of a build will have all of that in there. And then shipping is the one that you actually distribute. The next thing we want to do is, if this game is being fully rebuilt, you want to make sure to check this. So this is if you're building incremental updates to your game as you're developing it. Sometimes you need to rebuild the entire thing from scratch. So you would just check that to do the entire thing from scratch. And then if the game is for distribution, which means that if this is the one that is going to be developed or sent out to other, to say Steam, distribution is not necessarily even when making a shipping build, unless that is your final version of the game. So you want to leave this unchecked. It will basically remove a bunch of web services stuff that you won't have access to. So if you're building for, say, Steam Online tools and things like that, if you checked for distribution, it will give you access to those and will make the game run on those. But if you are trying to test stuff, if you check that, it won't let you access those things locally. Mostly multiplayer stuff, not necessarily something that you have to worry about for this. But we just want to make sure that we are set to shipping, and we unchecked all this stuff because we don't need to worry about that. Don't touch anything under prerequisites. Next thing we want to talk about, next part, is the supported platforms. So this, by default, will have all of these different platforms available to build, which is important because, like in Unity, these are different build profiles. We don't have to change anything about them, but they will. They need to be they need to be available to build off of. If you're building something that's not in these this set of platforms specifically, there are additional APIs and things like that that you need to plug into Unreal to be able and activate to be able to build on. But right now, we just want to make sure that we have access to Android, iOS, Linux, all this stuff, and Windows, which is what we're going to be building for. The final thing that we want to check to make sure before we build our project is under our Windows. So under platforms and Windows, this is where we would set all of the stuff that is specific to the Windows build. Splash images, icons, different plugins and things that we need for audio, and then the versions of our different different renderers that we're using. So by default, with newer versions of Unreal, you'll be running in DirectX 12, but you can build for DirectX 11 or Vulkan if you're building for Linux or for mobile. This is by default 12, and we want to make sure that if we want to build for DirectX 12, whatever we're building for has a DirectX 12 installed. Some machines still don't, and if you're building for an older machine, drop it to DirectX 11. That's the only thing we need to worry about there, and I believe that's the last thing that we need to worry about before we can build. Let me just... If you're worried about if you're building an actual game out and stuff, you may want to check your inputs to make sure your inputs are actually set up. But that's something that you'll do through developing your game. So I won't worry about that right now. All right, so I got about a minute left in this recording. Let's start the build. So under platforms right here, if we click this, we drop this down, and we have all of our different platforms we can build with. I'm going to choose Windows, and then we want to make sure we're using our project settings, and then click Package Product. This will bring up where we want to select our folder. So if I wanted to build it here, which I'll type in another Windows folder, select that, and then it'll start building. You'll see Packaging Project for Windows down here. You may get a firewall notification, but this will show you that it's packaging. If you click on your output log here, you can see it doing every process. If you have errors while building, they will show up in your output log, and you'll be able to track them through that. I'm going to let this build and be back once that's done. Okay, and we're back, and the build has finished. What you're looking for once everything is done is right here where it says build successful. That's pretty much it. If there are errors, they will pop up in red warnings will pop up in yellow, and you can scroll through your entire output log here to see everything, to see if there's any issues and what you have to do to fix them. I don't think that this one, yeah, has this is a warning, and like I said, red is maybe something before the bill comes out as an error. No, this was actually a pretty solid game. There was only one warning. So now that that's done, if we go into our please hold. I would like to. Dang it. There we go. Just trying to get there quickly. We go into our project folder here. You can see the build and all of the different files here to run it. The application right here, and also all of our different files that it needs to be able to play the game. That's pretty much it. And again, just like with the Unity build, if you right click, you can distribute this. Again, if there are installers or whatever for the project, then you'll build those out too. But you can distribute this just as easily as making this a zip file, and then passing that zip file around. And that's basically it. That's all I really wanted to cover with the building out your project. This is, again, not something that you're going to need to do for this week. I asked everybody to submit your project files so that I could go in and look at them through the editor. But if you want to take one of your projects and distribute it, show it to people, to show your work off and everything, this is how you would do that. That's it for today. Again, tomorrow I will be posting more stuff on different tips and tricks that you can use to make your level designs, map designs look better. So, excuse me. So look forward to that. Thank you. See you guys next time.